Well, first of all, I just love skiing. Like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy, ever.
Yeah, I'm scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside, I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I came back way stronger. I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward. And I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Athletic Stance Podcast, a skier's perspective with your host, yours truly, Scott Chrisman. In this podcast, I have made it my job to go out and interview skiers at the highest level of the sport, to explore their perspective on life, what shaped and influenced them to become the person they are, and a whole lot more. First, let's take a look at our sponsors, because without them, none of this is possible. Our first sponsor is Grass Sticks. I love these poles. Not only are they sustainable, they're handmade in Steamboat, Colorado, and by far the most durable and best pole I've ever used. I used to break a couple pair of aluminum poles a season. I haven't broke a pair in 2.5 years now, so if that doesn't speak to the quality, I don't know what does. Use the code REP5 for 15% off a new set of sticks. Our second sponsor is IFA Pro Wear. They make sustainable bamboo underlayers that are not only the most comfortable underlayers I've ever used, but antimicrobial. So they keep from smelling bad, and they're wicking, so it'll keep you dry. Check out their website, ifa-prowear.com, and use the code AOS17 for 15% off any purchases. They just came out with an underwear line that is super comfortable. I recommend you check it out. Today's interview is a continuation of last week's episode with Angel Collinson. If you haven't checked out part 1, you'll find it in episode number 4. The beginning of this podcast starts with the end of number 4, where we're talking about impact and inspiration versus resonating with others. I appreciate every single one of you guys for taking the time to listen and support the Athletic Stance. It wouldn't be possible without you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the show, please email me at scott@academyofskiing.com, and that's Scott with 1 T. Enjoy the rest of this interview with Angel Collinson. So speaking of like kids and the world and where we're at right now, if you could have one significant impact in the world, what would it be?
I think it would, well, that's like a lifelong question.
Right?
Yeah. But I guess sometimes the best things you can do is just what comes off the top of your head. If I could have one significant impact, I think it would be that being able to make everyone that I encounter feel loved and worthy and able to make whatever changes that they wanted to make in the world.
Yeah.
You know, like to inspire people's beliefs in themselves and the good of people and nature and life itself, I guess.
Yeah. And it doesn't, none of this has to be your final answer. You can change it at any point.
I'll change it in 5 minutes. No.
Yeah.
No, but that was the first thing that comes up.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Empowering others is just, so important. And, once you get in the routine of empowering yourself and practicing that like self-validation, I think that's kind of the next step in the progression is empowering others. So
yeah, exactly. And I think something I think about a lot too, that there's a lot of talk getting thrown around of like inspiring others or empowering others, and I like all of those concepts, but I also when I speak about them or think about them, to me, like of utmost importance also is like I realize that I want to resonate with others is the most important, because I want to find things that other people that are like, ooh, yeah, I feel that, and I like that moves me as well, because I think I realized I didn't like saying I want to inspire others or I want to empower others just alone like that, because it made me feel like there was a lack of humility in there, like all of a sudden I've reached some tier and I'm better than you and I'm going to show you the way to awesomeness. You know what I mean? Because that's not how I feel at all. I feel like the older I get, the more I realize I don't know and the more humble I become. And so like throughout life, I want to find things that help move all of us together, not like the older I get, the more I feel like I've figured it out and want to share that with others, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And I love that you make that distinction, because when you say the word resonate, when I think of the word resonate, I literally kind of think of like if I'm resonating with someone, there's like a vibration that's inside me that feels like it's matching someone else's.
Yeah.
And there's no way for me to describe it other than that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I've been trying to use that word instead of like, at least in my dialogue, I've been trying to replace like inspire, especially with resonate, because I think everyone knows what resonate means, but it's not as commonly used. And I do feel like sometimes the word inspire can be either used wrong or taken wrong, or I don't know. So yeah, that's just been something that's been on my mind recently.
Totally. It can kind of provoke a level of separatism or division or egotism that isn't necessarily there, but when, especially, from, being someone where I've been depressed and like in the bad parts of life, and I think of someone that like is supposed to inspire me, it's almost more like self-defeating. I'm like, they are so far away from where I'm at right now. Like, how is that? But when you say the word resonate, you're like, oh, like that person is just like me. They have similar feelings to what I have. They just have put into practice and routine maybe some different things that have made them more personally and internally validated. And so,
hopefully there's like a level of attainability or a window into like the level of attainability that maybe sometimes is otherwise seen as like out of reach.
Yeah, totally. And one of the things that I've realized throughout, like, especially this last year with, brushing shoulders with some people, because I'm trying to go in a little bit more entrepreneurial route as well, is like when I've met people that I thought, that are multimillionaires or people that are doing things that I, before never thought I could do, and then I get to spend time around them. I realize it's just another person, and it's kind of the same thing, you and I are just two people who happen to grow up ski racing together and, happen to stay in touch through, all that, but you've achieved, way more success in the ski industry than I have, but, we're just two people out there trying to live.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think a lot too about like, what do we define as success? And in our society, like we define success as like rising to the top, and like we have these parameters that we set on what a successful life looks like or what success looks like. And I recently just did an interview with Leslie from TGR. Yeah. And it was on, or actually she's not working for TGR. It was for like an REI profile or something. But she, we were talking about like, she asked me that question, like, what does success look like to you? And all of a sudden I realized like, man, success does not for me mean anything about achievements or like social ladders or any sort of hierarchical levels or climbing. To me, success totally is completely individual and relational. And for me, it's like if you're happy and you feel like you're doing things that make you feel good about the impact you're having on the world, like that's successful to me,
Yeah.
And I really deeply feel that, and that I think sometimes in the Western world, we like put a little too strict of, I don't know, labels on like, or tags to success. So just for the record, I think you're crushing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I totally, like, for me, there was a while, like, when I, drinking was kind of causing depression and anxiety for me, and I was becoming super reactionary. No matter what I was doing, I was just reactionary. So, like, when I finally kind of became conscious of that and started to be conscious of my changes, a successful day could have been me not being reactionary to, like, the people that cut me off in line or to stuff like that. And so, yeah, totally. Like, success is, we each get to go out and define what our version of success is. And so many people we're each kings and queens, and we're each gods and goddesses, and we get to define how our life looks unless we place that power in someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
And, so.
Yeah. I had this moment too last year where, because I feel that, we have this constant struggle where on one hand you want to feel special and stand out from everyone, but then in that same way, you're also isolating yourself and like putting this separation that doesn't need to be there. And I had this moment where I went to I see this awesome acupuncturist who I just saw today, actually. And he's always been like one of me and my mom's kind of spiritual gurus. And every time you check in, he always drops these knowledge bombs, and it's just so awesome.
Yeah.
And I was telling him about the struggle that I was having with my injury last year and really having a hard time getting on a good rehab program. Like, what we were talking about with all the travel and being able to do my PT exercises every single day was really hard, and I wasn't doing them, and I wasn't making progress with my recovery. So all of a sudden I realized, like, whoa, I'm not superhuman. Like, I've always relied on kind of being naturally physically gifted, I guess, in certain ways. I haven't had to work super hard at certain things. Like, I'm naturally strong or different things. And when I was talking to him, I was like, I just realized that I just realized that I'm not special. I'm just like everybody else, and that I really have to work hard at this. And he stepped in, he's like, you mean you're special just like everybody else.
Right.
And yeah. And I was like, yeah, okay, good. I need to like make that a mantra, So I'm not like separating me from everyone or whatever. It just put it into good words for me to think about on a regular basis.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. I have a massage therapist that my mom and I actually see, who's this amazing spiritual holistic woman who anytime I go and see her, she'll drop these huge bombs and like you walk out and you're like, oh man, like I need to go meditate on that for like the next 10 years and then maybe you'll find out the meaning or
I know.
Oh, man. But yeah, that's awesome. I love having those people, and especially those people that are so practiced in, holding that window and that space for growth and shifts in perspective. And, just feel like so blessed having someone like that in my life. Is there, did he come into your life through like your mom found him first, or how did that happen for you?
Yeah. My mom started seeing him for some different like energy work and body work. And then, so I started seeing him, like with her and then independent of her as well. And it's just been amazing. I think it's so important for us these days to have like, cause a lot of times, in Western medicine, like, you maybe see a doctor to check up, or you just see a doctor, if something's wrong. Yep. And the Eastern way is a lot more like preventative, and you employ these practices where you regularly check in, you regularly get body work done, or you regularly talk about stuff or exercise, and that's preventative measures so nothing bad happens. And I think for us, especially in the Western world now, having a person that you can talk to or a place you can go where you regularly practice like self-care for your mind and body, and having someone that you can have those like meaningful check-ins, like how are you doing in life, like how have you progressed since the last time I saw you, what's been going on, like having those people in our life is so important. And I don't think we it's not a common thing that a lot of people like see as a need in their life, but to me it's been life changing, like going and getting regular like check-ins with my holistic doctor. I like look forward to them. I'm like, yeah, I'm back in Salt Lake, I could go see Dr. Anderson, and it's like starts out with a half-hour bro down session of like how things have been going, and it's like it's the kind of therapy session. Then you get to dive into like more body stuff or energy stuff, and I love them. It is a total highlight of like my existence. And yes, I encourage people to like look into something that resonates, and maybe it's acupuncture, or I don't know, it could be a lot of different things, but
totally. Yeah, acupuncture, I tore my ACL in February. And
oh dang, that's right. How's that coming along?
So good.
Yay!
So good. I was running, like I ran a 10K 3 months after.
Whoa.
Which is like nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I was like the fastest healing ACL surgery that the doctor's ever seen, which like speaking of like feeling like superhuman or whatever, like that was really cool because I was unsure. I'd never had a big surgery like that. But I kind of, what I did is as soon as it happened and as soon as I found out that it was my ACL, I figured out how to be grateful for it. I was like, okay, what do I need? What does the universe want from me? You know, I'm sitting on the sidelines for some reason. You know, my season was going really well before that. I was, you know, feeling as strong as I ever had. I was feeling just kind of on top of my game. I was getting some really good film, and you know, everything was coming together in a really awesome way. And then all of a sudden it was like life was like, nope. You're gonna sit on the sideline and you're gonna learn some more things. And so I came back to it and I was like, okay, well, what do I need to learn? And then I recommitted myself to working out with my personal trainer, and getting in with an acupuncturist, and you know, working on getting yoga in as a morning routine more often, and all these things. And now, you know, like it's also led me down this entrepreneurial venture, and now I have these amazing people in my network, and it's just like it's been this whole amazing experience. But I think only because as soon as it happened, I had the choice, and I made the choice to be like, okay, let's make something good out of this. you know?
Like totally. That makes me really happy to hear that. And yeah, it was the same for me. Like I, you know, was obviously at the top of my career, and that happened, and I was like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? And everyone always says like you learn so much about yourself, and you usually get really, really big gifts from being injured. And I totally agree with that. Like I wouldn't have met my boyfriend. I wouldn't be living in Alaska. Like so many things happened that have completely steered the course of my life. And it was all because of my knee injury, and having the courage to be like, okay, this can be an opportunity is so crucial. And I'm really happy to hear that you hopped on board right away.
Yeah, totally. It's been a hard, because a year and a half ago I broke my back, and then you know, this season that happened. So it's been like 2 back-to-back seasons. They've been cut short. I lost one of my best friends almost a year and a half ago. Like it was like a month after I broke my back, and then had a huge blowout with my ex-girlfriend last fall, like 11 months ago. So I just kind of like for the last year and a half, life has continually just been like beating me up a little bit. But at the same point, like here I stand a year and a half after breaking my back, and I'm as strong as I've ever been, mentally, physically, spiritually. I have more of an impact. I am like the biggest thing, which I've brought up a couple times, is having internal validation. I choose what makes me happy, and I choose what makes me upset, and I don't I don't place the power anywhere else. And I allow myself the time and space to metabolize emotion, whether it be sadness, anger, fear, whatever it is. But after I metabolize it, I choose to go out and smile, because that's kind of like what you were saying, where you want everyone that you come across to feel loved, and it's like I have to embody love for that to be. So.
Yep. I wholeheartedly love everything you just said.
Is there anything that you did or do to metabolize the emotion of being injured or having a setback, or even like having a weather hold for like 2 weeks and not being able to go on a trip, or like actually get the footage of the trip you're supposed to go on or something like that?
Yeah, I think I like the concept of like metabolizing these experiences and emotions, because I think that we metabolize experiences at different rates depending on where we're at. Sometimes you're able to metabolize it immediately and process it right then, and just either be sad or be angry and like let it flow through you, and then that's good. And so primarily, I think it's really important to let yourself have these feelings. I've been talking a lot about it recently with my boyfriend, because he's the captain of this firefight. Like, he's a firefighter and he's captain of the heavy rescue team in Anchorage. And they, on a daily basis, just see the most messed up stuff, and they don't talk about it very often. And there's not really many practices employed where they can like process sometimes the things that are really upsetting. And especially and what he talks about a lot is like for men, in this modern age, you guys are supposed to be like super strong and tough all the time. And if you're emotional or allow yourself to feel, that it's a sign of weakness, Yep. And so as women, supporting our men and supporting all you guys and being like, no, it's so important to let yourself feel these things. And as fellow men, you guys encouraging other men that it's okay to process this stuff and to be sad and to cry or whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I was just saying, I think it's also important to allow yourself to metabolize something that comes up at a much later time. And sometimes it's hard to recognize like why you're feeling that way. Like, I just had this experience last week where I was at the Jackson premiere, and I realized that I was really anxious and worried about the fact that I kind of don't have anything to show from last year. And it's the first time really in a while that I feel like I don't have a product to show that is, whatever, that I don't have something to show. Yeah. So I had this experience where, like, for the Jackson premiere, I totally went out of body, and I didn't remember a thing about the movie, but I remember everything leading up to it, and I remember everything after. But like the next day, I couldn't recall a thing about the movie, and I realized I just totally checked out. And then that next day, I was like, okay, apparently this is a lot bigger of a deal than I've been giving myself credit for. To me, it's a lot bigger of a deal, and I need to allow myself the time to be like either really bummed out or really disappointed in myself or whatever, and anyways, I guess the whole point of that is just sometimes like we have to compartmentalize to get through, and then our busy lives take over, but recognizing when it comes up and you're like, okay, I'm supposed to process this from like a while back, allowing yourself the time and space to do that, like you said, is really important. So I try and do it always. I try and, have the daily check-in so I know how I'm feeling, but then sometimes it's also the daily check-ins allow when things come up from the past, allow you to be like, okay, I got to deal with this now.
Yeah, totally. That brings me to, a subject that is maybe a little bit tougher to talk about, but like losing friends, I think is something that you constantly have to metabolize it, and something that, you just can't metabolize in one sitting. And, like it becomes cyclical. And a couple things that I want to talk about. One is like, as men, like you're saying, we're supposed to, be strong and not be vulnerable. I actually gave Lexi DuPont a book that I was recently read called The Way of the Superior Man, which kind of, it doesn't fully illustrate it, but I think one of the most manly things that you can do is actually be vulnerable. and admit your flaws, your faults, your shortcomings, and that you have emotion and that it affects you.
Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, like, do you have any practices that you've done? Like, for me, it's different for every one of my friends that I've lost. But do you have like a practice or something that you do when you have lost someone that's close to you that helps you metabolize it, or like writing a letter to them and throwing it in the fire, or is there something?
Yeah. I I haven't really had to deal with too many close losses besides Ryan.
Yep.
And so I like you said, I continually find sometimes pieces of him or of the situation that I'm hanging on to. And so I feel like the things that I do often when I need to let go of something is, like you said, I'll either write him a letter, or maybe I'll write some stuff. Like for me, writing stuff and burning it is a really powerful thing that helps me release it. And so I will, like you said, cyclically or kind of periodically have these little ceremonies, and maybe I'll gather some sage from the desert, or I'll make a little altar of things that he used to like, or something like that. And it's basically just a time where I allow myself, and a lot of times I go outside to do it, and where I allow myself to just like fully feel and fully go there and really connect with, like, what is it that I'm having a hard time with? What is it that I'm hanging on to? And then find the inspiration of how I want to move forward with it. Like sometimes it's like, he would hate it if he knew I was just feeling sorry for myself all week, or missing him all week, and it was taking away from my everyday life, or whatever it is. Sometimes the inspiration's always different, but having these times where if you realize, like, man, this is something that has been coming up a bunch this week and I'm having a hard time with, taking the time to have a little ceremony and connect with them, connect with yourself, and help release in whatever way you want to. For me, I love writing things and burning them. Yeah, that's been my go-to, I guess. But what about you?
So I was supposed to learn how to speed fly from my friend who passed away, and he passed away in a speed flying accident. Mm-hmm. And so over the last year and a half, I've found people who can help me learn how to speed fly. And then, like when I'm in the air, whenever I see a bird flying around in the air and playing around in the thermals and everything, it just reminds me of him. Yeah. And then, sometimes I'll just break down. And all of a sudden, I'll be driving and I'll see a bird that's playing around in the air, and I'll just start crying. Yeah. And then other times, when I set out to learn how to speed fly, because there's a feeling of being with him. And one of the biggest things that I was angry about with the whole situation was that I didn't get the opportunity to spend the time that I felt the universe owed me, quote unquote, with him. And I didn't get to spend that time speed flying with him. And so it was all coming from me projecting into the future of what I thought I deserved, or what I thought the universe owed me. Right. And so there's a certain coming to terms with the fact that if I, and this doesn't relate to every situation, but if I felt like I was owed that time, or I could have, one of the biggest things was I passed up an opportunity to go see him because I thought that I was guaranteed this time to see him later on. Right. And so I felt all this regret and everything. But now, for me, it's every time that I get to go fly, and I make the best decisions possible, but when I'm in the air, it's I'm with him. Right. And, with Tony Seibert, that was a rough loss. Growing up ski racing with him, I wasn't as close to him as some other people. But, just like whenever I see Connery Lundeen or Teton Brown or Lexi, it's like remembering to just add a little bit of party Tony, to the situation.
Totally. Yeah.
And, I went out to Sun Valley the last 2 summers. Jordan was my friend's name. He started a kids camp, and I went out and coached for a week last summer and 2 weeks this summer. And, basically was just trying to carry on his legacy. And he would, he'd always say, right on. And he was always, he was super humble, super just like, one of those personalities where you just kind of get angry at the universe for taking them too early. You're like, of all people, that, that one.
Yeah.
And so, like journaling, going out and doing the activities without them just to be with them, which sounds oxymoronic or,
No, I totally get it. Yeah.
And, like allowing myself to feel the emotion. There was an instance when I was 13 where I watched a girl named Ashley Stamp get hit by a snowmobile, at Vail, and she passed away. And I actually had a crush on her and like never metabolized that, held that for so long. And recently this summer, after talking about being able to talk to more people about death and about vulnerability and about all these things, all of a sudden that it got shown to me so clearly that like I had never taken the time to deal with that. And so, taking the time to like reflect and be with it and just like, there's nothing that is ever supposed to like replace or, that's supposed to quote unquote fix the problem of the situation. Yeah. But you can, for me, I can come to terms or come to more peace when I do let myself kind of just wander through this path of emotion. And then all of a sudden I'll kind of like come to a place where I'm like, like maybe for her and for him, there were 2 people that were just like such bright lights in the world that I kind of, what I've come to is like they spread enough light in this world for that lifetime. Yeah. And, the universe needed them somewhere else because they were that powerful and that amazing and that full of love. And I just kind of am like, okay, like I'm not that selfish. I don't need them as much as, the universe needs them somewhere else. And I know that might be a little like esoteric or, meta philosophy or whatever, but I don't know. Yeah, no, I love it. I'm totally, we all have our own world views and spiritual views and views on the afterlife or whatever, and I definitely try not to impose mine on anyone, but everything you just said resonates with me for sure. And I also feel like a lot of times they have given us a huge gift, and it's even more cemented and imprinted if they die, because all of a sudden we're like, really inspired and moved and want to emulate all of the good things that they taught us. And it's like their death cements that. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's okay. And I think, like you said, there's a good chance that they need to continue their work somewhere else, Yeah. And, I guess something that just came up that I was thinking about is, well, I think it's really important for us to process these things and go down like the dark paths and feel the shitty things that we don't want to feel. On the same note, I think it's really important not to feel like we're victims of the situations, because
it can be easy to get stuck in a hole of self-pity and depression and sorrow and not know how to pull yourself out. And I think that comes from feeling like a victim of the situation and like, poor me, or it's not fair. And, like you said, I think it kind of comes from this entitlement of what we deserved from them or whatever. And like that idea of being entitled of anyone else's time or love I don't think that that's necessarily valid if it's keeping you from healing and being whole and being the light that they would want you to be, so staying out of being able to process and then also recognize like, okay, I need to pull my shit together now and like keep moving. It's a fine line, but it's an important one to walk, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And an important distinction to make, in your life, however you make that, because some people get affected by loss just differently, and so but that I think it's really easy to become a victim, and everything that you said where that's it, being deserving of anyone's time or love just kind of leads you into a trap.
Yeah, because it's all a gift.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But it's hard to apply all the time, but a good perspective to try and maintain, I feel like. Yep.
Or at least come back to when you can.
Yeah, exactly. Find your way back to it eventually somehow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much impossible to sit in that spot, but when as long as you can come back to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that I was thinking about when you were gone, that Lexi and I talked about, and this might be a little bit long-winded, but she was saying that death isn't something that we talk about in society very often, and so it's kind of something that we don't really we don't hold any space for.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from so many different things, like we were talking about earlier with like living in a city, being farther away from nature and being farther away from the source of food. We don't have to kill the animals that we eat.
Yep.
We don't have to farm the food that we grow, that we eat.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of it seems to me that the human race kind of tries to pretend that it's eternal in some ways, or like,
for sure, yeah. I know you got like Botox and everything to try and make you look like you're 25 forever.
Yeah. And so I think one thing that kind of like you were saying with your boyfriend and the firefighting and the crazy stuff that we see, I think the more that we can just talk about these things, and it's one thing, it's why I've brought it up with you and Lexi and, people that I feel that, really have dealt with it firsthand, is because the more that we can talk about it and the more that we can shed light on it, I think the more that we can all come to peace, whatever that means, or come back to that feeling of, understanding that we're not deserving of anyone's love or time. And, I think, like, I would just love to encourage anyone that listens to this to, if you do have a vulnerability or an experience, or, just to, be more comfortable with talking about death or risks in the backcountry, or, what the reality of life fully entails, because I think it becomes a lot more, life kind of becomes a lot more beautiful when you do recognize that there is an end to it.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. And if you can't, the more that it's hard for us to come to terms with death, I think the more fear we have in our lives.
Yeah.
And I just even fearing that our time is finite, or, I had this conversation with my boyfriend about what our biggest fears were, and his was that having the people that he really loves leave him too early, and so in that there's this fear. instead of an acceptance, and I think it just takes the work, and it takes talking about it and familiarizing yourself with it and each other. Yeah, like removing the taboo or the stipulation that death is bad. Like one of the things that really helped me get through Ryan's passing was knowing that in a lot of cultures, death is celebrated, and it doesn't mean that there's no sorrow or mourning associated. There's definitely that, and it's a crucial part of our releasing that, but that it is a celebration. It's a continuation of the cycle of life. And so me remembering that there are actually a lot of cultures that celebrate it, I was like, okay, I can do this. It can be a good thing. Even if it sucks for me right now, it can be a good thing, Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
What was I think I was just watching, Doctor Strangelove. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's so awesome. I love it. And the scene where, the, like grand, what was it? Not Grand Sorcerer, but like the main woman, the bald woman. I can't remember what they called her. Oh, the Sorceress Supreme, where she said that, like, the fact that our time is finite is what makes it beautiful. And I was just like, yeah, exactly. That's what makes it worth it and beautiful. It's like flowers, they're so pretty because that they're just a fleeting moment in time, and it makes you appreciate their beauty way more,
Yeah, totally. If they were always around, why would they be so cool? And,
yeah, exactly. They wouldn't stand out.
Yeah, and like same goes if we lived forever, it wouldn't be beautiful, because I don't think anything would really truly have meaning at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, the talking about, I would encourage people to as well. And it was always funny after Ryan died, and I did a lot of interviews, and people would be like, I know this is probably hard for you to talk about, but it was like so healing to be able to talk about it. And now, like, I think almost everyone that I've talked to that have had these close encounters with death and have had to address a lot of, fundamental philosophical questions for themselves have this sense of, or this almost, I don't know if it's a wisdom or a presence of being that is more and greater than and much better because of this experience that they've had to go through, and welcoming that the challenges make us more whole and more healed if we let them is like a key component of the whole thing.
Yeah, totally. I love all of that. I think it's counterintuitive, especially the way that society has ended up. But when anyone, it's kind of like that person at the end of the bar who has all of the stories.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
That person, like, they must have gone through a ton of shit.
Yeah.
And it's probably because they have. And,
Yeah.
And they do have those stories. And, not all of them are amazing, death-defying, whatever. I'm sure that, it takes all types of stories to create that kind of person.
Yeah, exactly. And we never, I've been thinking this a lot, but we never choose to have the shit kicked out of us. We never choose, like, I'm going to choose this really challenging experience. I'm just going to sign up for that. Like, we always want things to be, like, amazing and exciting and awesome. But the things that actually make us grow and appreciate life better and improve are the ones that are hard, and those are always the ones that life kind of, like, slaps at us, and you're just like, and then you pick yourself up and are way better after, and then you're grateful. But it takes a while before you come to that point, usually.
Yeah, totally. If you ever can come to that point. I know a lot of people that just, like, carry around those experiences like it's a suitcase, and it just keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
Totally.
Instead of just, like, opening it up and seeing that there's a gift inside,
Yeah, exactly.
So, I guess let's try and end it on a little bit happier note, or like just encouraging and positive. What's one piece of encouragement or wisdom that you've received in your life that stuck with you? If there is one, and if not, what's one piece of advice that you would give some, younger female or male athlete who's trying to do what you've done?
Well, I guess for me, the work of Brené Brown has been really influential. And so she does. Are you familiar with Brené Brown?
I'm not. How do you spell that for me real quick?
Brene, with I think a little accent on the last E, but it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And then Brown, like the color.
Yep.
And she has done a lot of work on shame and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And her work is amazing to check out. She's written a lot of books, but I first got familiar through podcasts. But essentially, I think the words of encouragement that I heard when I heard her talking like years back was that it's okay to fail, and it's okay to feel shameful, and it's okay to like be vulnerable about those things, and that's actually strength, to be willing to go inside and be like, why am I feeling so shitty about XYZ, and why do I keep guilt tripping myself about it? So I think the almost allowance of those kind of darker parts of ourselves and the encouragement that that's okay, and it's okay to bring light to those, and that's actually strength has really stuck with me, because I'm a perfectionist, and I'm the kind of person that you hear the cliche words like it's okay to fail or whatever, but to really believe that is really challenging, especially if you're like type A, like go-getter, and embracing failure can be really challenging. And so for me, like the permission that it's okay to like feel guilty, or it's okay to not be your best self, or it's okay to like have all these things, and actually the strength and the good part of that is when you can bring that to light and connect with the rest of humanity on the fact that we all feel that, and no one wants to talk about it. That really made me have the courage to like step out and really just be me, even if I felt like I was going to get rejected or whatever. Like sometimes I just don't have as much of a filter as I used to, because I'm just willing to more authentically be myself. And I'll just say like the random wackiest thing that comes into my head. And I'll just say it out loud. Like, what if we were in this scenario and this happened? Like, wow, that'd be crazy, And people are looking at me like, are you on drugs, or like, what's going on? But that allowance to like just be yourself in front of people and the world is so liberating. And I feel like once you let yourself be that way and not worry about being judged, to know that everyone else has, these same parts of themselves, that really made me bring myself more fully to who I was. And I really think that's why I've had the success that I've had in the ski career and all these places, is because I'm continually working on myself and continually trying to present my rawest self outward. And does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
100%. I love it. And I think especially, like we were talking about success, and, with both of us growing up ski racing, there's, there were maybe like 60 of us trying to get on the podium, or like more than that. And, you only felt good about yourself. And I think especially for you and I, where we competed, at a pretty high level, it was like you only felt good about yourself when you accomplished the results, or when you were hitting the bar that was set, or whatever. And I think that's, for me, in the last year and a half, one of the biggest realizations that I've had is just about, and I've said this a couple times, but just about internal validation. And I think, part of that has like being happy knowing that you tried your best and failed is so hard.
Yeah.
But once you get that down and you practice it and you make it a routine, you become unstoppable.
Yeah, totally. And what I hear you saying is that essentially you don't make your happiness conditional. You make it unconditional, because it's not coming from certain circumstances that are completely outside of your control. You make it something that comes from you, which is within your control, and then it's not conditional.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's just the fact that I woke up today is a miracle. Like, I opened
Yeah.
my eyes, and the world's
Yeah.
still here. Holy
Yeah.
crap, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And that about wraps it up for the interview with Angel Collinson. I hope that you guys enjoyed this conversation and found a lot of places that you can grow spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, however it is, and that you found some applicable information and resources that can help you and help us create a better community and really form Team Human as strong as we possibly can. Much love and happy shredding out there, guys.